Hi everybody, my name's Ellie Dunwell and I am one of the Global Opportunities Officers at the University of Bristol. So I work with our incoming study abroad students who come to spend a year or a semester at the University of Bristol. And I'm joined by my colleague Sebastian, who I will allow to introduce himself briefly to you.
All right, hello everybody, my name is Sebastian Verwey. I am a senior lecturer in medieval and early modern literature here in the Department of English. And I think Ellie will give you some information about us in the first instance, and I'll see you in a little while, tell you more about the English program.
Thanks, Sebastian. So yeah, really the idea of this session today is just to give you a little bit more information about the University of Bristol, some more information about the city as well, because Bristol is actually a really great destination to be a study abroad student. So hopefully we'll be able to give you a little bit of a flavour of the city, and then also talk to you a little bit more specifically about the English classes that you can take if you decided to study at Bristol for a semester or a year. So in terms of the university, we are a highly ranked UK institution. So we're currently ranked top 10 in the UK, according to the most recent QS World University rankings. We're also currently ranked 62nd in the world. And just to give you a little bit of an idea, there's around 17,000 universities worldwide. So at 62nd, we think we're doing pretty well. We have 32 subjects that are currently ranked in the top 100 as well. And we're also very well known for our research. So we are a research-led institute at Bristol, and what that means is that research really does inform what we do as an institution. So research informs our curriculum. The majority of our academics are also actively researching alongside their teaching, and what that means for you as a student is that you're going to get a really relevant study abroad experience where you'll be learning from academics who really are at the forefront of their respective fields. To give you a little bit of history about the University of Bristol, so we were established back in 1876 as University College Bristol. Something that I'm really proud of is that we were actually the first higher education institute in England to admit men and women on an equal basis. And that commitment to gender equality does continue to underpin what we do as an institution. We also are a member of the Russell Group, which you may have heard of. It's a little bit like the US's Ivy League. So it's a group of 24 UK research-intensive world-class universities. At Bristol, we are also really well known for our kind of eco-friendly initiatives, our commitment to sustainability, and we were actually the first UK university to declare a climate emergency back in 2019. In terms of our student community, we are kind of a relatively medium to large size institution. So we currently have over 27,000 students studying with us at undergraduate, postgraduate taught and postgraduate research level. And around 25% of those students are actually from outside of the UK. So it's a really diverse cohort at Bristol. We welcome students from over 150 countries worldwide onto our degree programmes. And we hope that that diversity of cohort is something that students really gain from when they decide to study with us. Our academics are also relatively international, so I think around 30% of our academic staff are from outside of the UK as well, which is obviously important in order to gain a really kind of global education. In terms of the city of Bristol, so I've just got a little picture here. This is our harbour side. We are not as well known in the US as maybe obviously London, cities like Manchester or up in Scotland, Edinburgh, but Bristol is actually a really, really hidden gem. Not so much in the UK, we're actually really well known in the UK, but there is tons to do in Bristol, and we're a really kind of diverse, liberal, forward-thinking city. So it's a great place to be a student. We're also really nicely located in that we're in the southwest of England. So if you can see on the map here, we are this purple dot. We're kind of just on the border in between England and Wales, and we're around an hour and a half away from London. It's really easy to get to London from Bristol. We have our train station, which has direct links into Paddington Station in London. We're also really nicely located in that we're close to really beautiful areas of countryside, but also really close to some really lovely coastline as well. So if you go down from Bristol to kind of this peninsula that's sticking out here, this is Devon, and all the way down here is Cornwall. And I always recommend to our study abroad students to do some exploring of the UK whilst they're studying with us, rather than just going to Europe, because there's some gorgeous places to visit that aren't too far away from Bristol itself. If you do want to go and travel outside of the UK, though, we do have our own international airport in Bristol, and that's located around a 25 to 30-minute bus journey away from our university campus. It's really easy to get to the international airport, and they run lots of relatively inexpensive flights throughout Europe. So it's a really good base to then explore the rest of Europe from. I've already mentioned that Bristol's a really exciting city, and we are one of Europe's, I think, most creative cities. We've got a lot of accolades that have been given to our city, so just some of these I've listed here. So things like the coolest UK city, we've been ranked as the best place to live outside of London for under 26-year-olds. And we've also got a huge amount of green spaces in Bristol, which I think is something that's quite rare for a city where there is so much going on. We've got 400 parks and green spaces for students to enjoy. And I know study abroad students who have studied with us have said that they've really enjoyed kind of that mixture between having the nature and that opportunity to go and explore some of the countryside and parks in Bristol, but also feeling like they are in a vibrant city where there's a lot going on. Just to give you a brief overview of some of the things that you can do whilst you're studying with us. So we have really fantastic historic theatres based in Bristol, such as the Bristol Old Vic. We're really well known for our street art in Bristol as well. So some of you may be familiar with the street artist Banksy, who's probably the most famous Bristol-based export. He is from Bristol, so you'll often see lots of Banksys scattered around the city. We do things like Banksy street art tour for students when they arrive. But we also have Europe's largest street art festival in Bristol as well, which is called Upfest. So if you're around in the summer, I would highly recommend visiting that one, because it's a great festival. We've got really great concert venues as well. So Bristol's very well known for its music scene, and really we offer something for kind of every genre, all the way from symphony orchestras down to you know, techno and jungle nights at some of Bristol's best clubs. We've also got shopping. We're really well known in Bristol for our independent spirit. So we actually have a lot of independent shops in our city, and we're really proud to be a very independent city. We also have lots of pop-up markets, and I know that our study abroad students in the past have really enjoyed visiting those markets. So street food markets, clothing markets, they've really kind of enjoyed, getting involved in those. And then in terms of food, we have a real diverse range of food options in our city. We're a very multicultural city, so you really can find most cuisines in our city. Just moving on to our study abroad programme. So we welcome onto our study abroad programme around 600 incoming study abroad students each year, and that's for full year, but also single semester placements. So full year placements run from September to June, and then we also offer an autumn semester and a spring semester. Students can choose to study with us across 3 different programs. So we have our study abroad general pathway, which is the one that most students from UCSB will study on. That gives you the most flexibility in terms of your unit choices. But we also have a subject pathway, which is where students can study one particular subject area. And then we also have study abroad with English language programme as well. What's really nice about Bristol is that here, if you do study abroad here, you'll take your classes alongside full degree Bristol students. So we don't offer any kind of study abroad only classes. And the idea of that is really to hopefully integrate you into the Bristol community, to make it a little bit easier for you to get to know home students as well, and just hopefully just settle you in really quickly. We also have our team, who are the Global Opportunities team, and we're on hand to really support you every step of the way. So all the way from you actually applying to Bristol through to the completion of your programme, we're on hand to basically just answer any questions you have, provide some support, come and talk to us, and hopefully just make the experience as enjoyable as possible for you. briefly, before I hand over to Sebastian, I just want to talk about our faculties and schools. So at Bristol, we are a comprehensive institution, and we offer kind of a range of different subject areas grouped into 6 faculties. So we have our arts faculty, engineering, health sciences, life science, science and social sciences, and law. And then in terms of the classes that you can take within those subject areas, we do really offer a wide range. So depending on what your major is back at UCSB, you can hopefully find something that aligns to that at Bristol. We're also really flexible in terms of, on the general programme, you can mix and match units from across our offering in order to create an academic programme that really works for you. So say you are an English major, but maybe you've got a minor in politics, you can fulfil both those requirements at Bristol. So you're not just limited to studying English, but you can choose to maybe take one politics class, or potentially, you know, if you're here for a full year, try something you've never done before. So maybe take a first year theatre class or a film and TV class. And the idea is for the programme to be as kind of customizable as possible in order for you to make the most out of it and transfer as many credits as you wish to back to your UCSB. So that's probably enough for me talking for now. I'm going to pass you over to Sebastian, who's going to talk a little bit more about the Department of English and the types of units and classes that you can take within our English department if you choose to study abroad.
Sure, thank you very much, Ellie. Can you hear me okay at the other end? All right. Hello, everybody. Particularly Izzy, who I see is there and is very bravely joining us at 9 a.m, which I know is basically the crack of dawn for undergraduate students. But hello as well to everybody else who might be watching this back at a later moment. I just want to say a few things about what academic life is like at the Department of English here in Bristol. Could you move the slide on for me, Ellie? All right, here we go. So yes, we have over the last few years grown and grown as a department. We now have about 50 or over 50 actually research active academics with specialisms, as it says, ranging from the medieval, really from Old English all the way up to the present day, the 21st century. We are called a Department of English Literatures, but I often like to think of us as a Department of Literatures in English. So that's really hasn't really got much of a not an exclusive focus on England, but it takes in English, British, American, global literatures. So that could be Southeast Asian literatures in English or African literatures in English, for example. And so to this huge global range, we bring lots of ways of reading, methodological approaches, if you like, or theoretical angles. And these include textual editing, or the history of the book, or the environmental humanities, the digital humanities, poetry and poetics, and so on. One of the ways in which Bristol is often in the news, recently at least nationally here in the UK, is for its kind of activism in relation to the Black Lives Matter movement, for example. Bristol as a city has sort of in the past formed a part of the transatlantic slave trade, and there's a lot of kind of historic investigations and thinking about what that means for us to live and work and study in the city today. So the department has this explicit commitment to what we call decolonizing the curriculum, and it's really a way of thinking about what literatures in English means to us today, looking well beyond the canon, you know, which back in the days was often called kind of male, pale, and stale, and these days has a huge representation, variety of voices. Some other new things we do at Bristol recently, we teach creative writing. I know this is in some US schools actually more firmly embedded in the kind of academic curriculum than it is here in the UK. So we're really pleased to offer this at undergraduate level now as well. Our students themselves have a whole range of kind of social activities, which will make it really easy to feel at home and to slot into our community of students. This includes, for instance, the Falstaff Society. You might recognize Falstaff there as a kind of famous Shakespearean character. Students organize their own peer-to-peer support networks, for instance, And beyond the department and the school, there are countless university societies. So whether you are interested in kind of faith-based societies or sports or hobbies or anything else, there's something bound to be for you here. We also offer through the department, this depends a little bit whether you might come as a kind of general study abroad student or as a kind of departmental study abroad student, but students receive the support of an academic personal tutor. That means there's always someone in the department who is looking out for you. We feel this is particularly important for incoming international students who might feel they need a little bit of help finding their way, either literally geographically in the city, or in terms of how studying in the UK and in Bristol works, what sort of essays tutors might be expecting, what is a good set of study skills to bring to a class, etc. So it's something that's on offer as well. Now, teaching works, I think, in comparable ways to what you are used to at UCSB, but there are some differences as well. So we teach our undergraduates in a range of formats: lectures, which could be from anywhere between sort of 25, 30, 50 students, to a full cohort lecture where you might be sitting in a large theatre with 180 students. But these are always paired with much smaller groups of seminars or tutorials, 2-hour or 1-hour slots, which I like to think of as our laboratories, if you like. It's in those seminars where all the hard thinking and the kind of conceptual brain work and all the kind of learning to put arguments together, etc., is happening. And a wonderful thing that I think we are very proud of, and still keeping in place one-on-one consultations with tutors as well. So there's a kind of scaling of kinds of ways in which you are engaging with your tutors. That's often happening in office hours. Now, contact hours, this is something a little bit different from some schools in the US, I think, is that the way that we teach the humanities in the UK, there's a slightly larger proportion of so-called independent study, right? This doesn't mean that you're out on your own without any guidance. We give you plenty of ways to spend your time wisely, if you like. But by and large, in the humanities, you'll be spending about 10 hours per week in a classroom, combination of lectures, seminars, meetings, and so on. It depends a little bit which year group you'll be slotting into. Students are always asking questions about assessment, so I thought I might put this on the slide as well. We, of course, examine often by so-called coursework, the gold standard essay, if you like, but there's a lot of diversification in ways in which we assess your learning. For instance, group presentations or research posters or blogs or portfolios. There are a few exams still kicking around here and there, but even those have started to turn into so-called take-home exams. Increasingly too, we do what's called formative assessment. My own students are very keen on this. This means that before you submit a big, say, 4,000-word essay at the end of a big unit, you have an opportunity to submit an informal 1,500 words to a tutor and have a kind of one-on-one consultation with him or her to see how your work is going. One of the things really that got me to Bristol sort of 7 years ago, and that made me happy to apply here as a medievalist and early modernist, somebody who's doing pre-modern literatures, if you like, is that we have a real commitment to teaching you across the entire history of English literatures, right? So we deliver 4 core units all the way from 1150, 1550, 1550, 1740, that's the Renaissance or early modern, if you like, 1740 to 1900, taking in the kind of the long 18th century and the Victorians, and then all the way up to the present. And some of that teaching is complemented. This to our home undergraduates happens in the first 2 years, and that's then complemented by different units that you would also be able to choose and study with us. And it depends on the kind of work that you may already have done at home, and you can put together a package of units that is a good complement to some of the knowledge that you already have. And so this may happen in what we call mid-scales, Chaucer and Chaucerians, or Shakespeare, or 18th century prose fiction. Some of these are really cool courses. Chaucer and Chaucerians, for instance, might sound like an example of these sort of male, pale and stale canonical writers, but in fact this is what in part about Chaucer's works. We'll read the Canterbury Tales and a fantastic love poem called Troilus and Cresside, but also a rewriting of the Canterbury Tales of about a decade ago by a fantastic British female performance poet called Patience O'Barby, who writes the Canterbury Tales as a kind of rap battle. So we think about Chaucer and his very long history throughout the tradition, and really look to kind of open up these topics to you. Finally, we offer you a lot of special subjects. These are research-led units taught by world-class specialists, it says. Really what that means is that you're being taught by people on topics who are, or just have, written books about these subjects. So they're absolutely at the cutting edge of thinking, if you like, in those particular fields. I'll give you some examples on the last slide of some of those special subjects and some of the other units. I should say these are examples. The offering of these, that will always change a little bit depending on staff availability. And if you were to come to Bristol, which we very much hope you do, then there'll be conversations with you later down the line about what units suit you. But here's some instances of the kind of work we offer you. Second year courses: African American literatures, Arthurian literatures, Black British literature. There's Chaucer and Chaucerians again, creative writing. And then year 3 units, for instance, there are some single author options, if you like. So Dickens is in there, James Joyce is in there. Illness narratives belongs to the kind of literature and medicine, literature and sociology type of crossovers. Kings, Queens and Sycophants is one of the units that I teach. It's about the writings of kings and queens. Henry VIII, Mary Queen of Scots, Elizabeth I, if you like. Sycophants are the kind of sucker-uppers of the court who write poems and texts back to those kings and queens. If that's not at all your cup of tea, which I will not at all be offended by, then there's different kinds of units, right? Literature, medicine, or literature, enslavement, liberation. This gives you a bit of a sense, I hope, of the type of teaching that we offer and of the huge kind of generic and chronological spread of units that is that we teach here as well. Right, Ellie, I'll hand back over to you, I think, now.
Perfect, thanks, Sebastian. That was great. I just wanted to mention as well something that I forgot to mention at the start. If you do have any questions, I know Izzy and Juan, you are kindly joining us. So if you have any questions about anything that we're talking about, feel free to put those in the chat. But we will have a little bit of time at the end, just have a short Q&A session as well. So if you're feeling brave, you can always unmute yourself, or you can just feel free to put it in the chat for them. So just kind of moving back onto a little bit about student life. I'm just trying to, perfect. So I just wanted to touch briefly on accommodation, because I know that that's something that's really important when you're looking at where you're going to study abroad. You want to know where you're going to be living, and that accommodation hopefully will be nice and easy to organise. So at Bristol, we actually guarantee accommodation for students joining us in September. So if you're joining us for the September semester, so that's from September to January, or for the full year, then we guarantee you accommodation as long as you apply by the deadline. For students joining us for the spring semester, so that one's from January to June, we don't actually guarantee accommodation, but we do make every effort to place you in university accommodation if that's what you choose. If we're not able to offer you university accommodation, which to be honest is quite rare, we would be able to support you in finding private rents in the city. Bristol is a little bit of a difficult place to find kind of short-term rentals. So we always recommend to our students to actually live in university accommodation. Firstly, it's really easy to organise. You know, you apply directly to the university. It's kind of a simple application form. You know that there's not going to be any kind of scams associated with the accommodation. It's also, you know, the accommodation is going to be up to a certain standard, which I think is important. It's going to be clean. It's going to kind of suit your budget and your needs. But also I think living in university accommodation is again a really great way of integrating yourself into the wider university community. A lot of our students say that they met loads of their really close friends when they were studying abroad from their accommodation. So you won't be in study abroad only accommodation kind of buildings or blocks or rooms. The idea is that you'll be living alongside full degree undergraduate Bristol students. Some of those may be home students, so British students, and some of those may be international students as well. So it's a great way to kind of meet people and hopefully settle yourself into the university. We offer a range of social activities out of our accommodation as well. So each of our accommodation buildings has something called a JCR, which is basically a committee that organise kind of fun social events throughout the year. So things like, I think in the past they've had kind of language classes. There's lots of sporting activities as well that happen within the accommodation buildings. They also organise things like formal dinners, nights out, etc. So there's lots of things that are happening kind of within the accommodation. We also include a bus pass in the accommodation fee for those of you who are living in university residences, because our accommodation, as you'll see, is a little bit spread out throughout the city. Something that I also forgot to mention that's quite important is that Bristol is a city-based campus. So we are located kind of within the almost city centre of Bristol. So we're in a really gorgeous area of the city called Clifton. It's very well known for its really beautiful Georgian architecture. And actually the campus is located within the city. So it's not a campus that's kind of outside of Bristol, it is kind of right in the action. But what that means is that the accommodation is a little bit spread out throughout the city. So having a free bus pass included in the accommodation fee makes it really easy to get to and from your accommodation to the campus, into town, etc. To talk a little bit about student life and wellbeing as well, because when you're a study abroad student at Bristol, you will have access to the whole range of support services that our full degree students have. So I've just listed a few of these here, but things like our wellbeing service, if you are struggling to adjust to life in the UK, they are on hand to help support you. They can recommend counselling if that's something that you need. We also have our residential life service who are based in our residences, and they're on hand 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to help you with, anything that's kind of happened in your residence, if something's broken or you need a little bit of support, or if you just want to have a chat to someone, they're a really, really great kind of support service. We also have things like disability services. So if you have a disability and you maybe get alternative arrangements back at UCSB, there's the option to actually sign up to our disability services here and put into place the same adjustments that you may get back at home. We also have kind of more practical support as well. So things like our student funding team who are on hand to offer funding advice, academic support. So our study abroad academic directors, who Sebastian's already mentioned, they're based really in schools to help you with any academic queries that you may have. We're on hand to answer any kind of general questions as well. And we also have a dedicated visa team who are available if you have questions about visas and studying on a visa in Bristol. I just wanted to quickly highlight just two kind of student life things that I wanted to talk to you about. So the first one is our Global Lounge. So our Global Lounge is a relatively new physical space. It was opened in September of last year. And the idea of the Global Lounge is it really is a cultural hub that encourages integration of all students, so home and international students. And what the Global Lounge is really good at is actually celebrating a lot of significant dates across the global calendar. So they run a huge amount of events throughout the year. So things like Thanksgiving they'll celebrate. They've also most recently been celebrating things like Eid. They also have lots of kind of breakfast meetups and opportunities to make friends as well. And our team are based in the Global Lounge. So a member of our team is there Monday to Friday. So if ever you have any questions, you can come into the Global Lounge and see us in person. They also run really great language cafes as well. So if you're interested in learning a new language, or you want to teach a language in more of an informal setting, you can join their weekly language cafes. And then something that you will probably hear of if you're thinking about the UK are students' unions. So just to give you an idea of what a students' union is, it really is a kind of organisation that is run by students at Bristol for Bristol students. So our students' union are based in a building called the Richmond Building, which is relatively close to our main campus. And they help run and organise our 400 clubs and societies that we have currently running at Bristol. They range anywhere from really kind of, I've written here, hot air ballooning, we have a society for. We've also got a debating society, probably we've got we've got a meditation society, we've got, model UN, really anything that you're interested in, there is likely going to be a society at Bristol that is kind of running events that cover those interests. If you don't have a society that's running at Bristol and you want to start one, you can also choose to do that. So if you've got a particular interest and you want to meet other people who are interested in that interest, as long as you've got more than, I believe, 10 people who want to sign up to that society, you can decide to create your own. And our Students' Union also run the 70 sports clubs that are associated with the university, and they range from kind of the competitive sports teams all the way down to kind of intramural leagues that are based out of our accommodation buildings. Just wanted to briefly touch upon entry requirements. So in order to apply to our study abroad programme, we ask that you would have completed at least 2 years of undergraduate study, if you're studying, which most of you will be, towards, or all of you, towards a 4-year undergraduate degree. We also ask that students reach our minimum GPA, which is a 3.0, and that's based on the US 4.0 scale. And then also that you need to meet any English language requirements, but obviously by studying at UCSB, you would have already met those just by studying your degree in English. And yeah, I think so. That's everything really from our end. In terms of how to apply, so if you are interested in coming to Bristol, the best bet really would be to speak to your UC EAP contact for the UK and let them know that you are interested in applying. They'll be able to talk you through kind of a little bit more of the logistical side of things. They'll also be able to then, if you do decide to apply, they'll nominate you to us, and then we'll send you more information about how to fill out our online application form, etc. But it's a really simple process from our end. So yeah, do just get in touch with your advisor at UCEAP to kind of find out a little bit more. And so do I see that we've got a couple of questions? Okay, perfect. And Sebastian is already going to take this one, so I will hand you over.
Sure. Juan, hello. Thank you very much for joining us. And
yes, hello.
Hello. We can even hear you. This is great.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think it's pretty much the case that your 4-year undergraduate degree maps onto our 3rd year, 3 years. And so I think if you were to come to us as a 4th-year student, we would look to map you or can sign you up largely to our 3rd year classes. And I think sometimes how this would work is that you might have a conversation at home as well in Santa Barbara right before you might come over to us, and we'll look at the curriculum, things that you've done, and perhaps where you might have some gaps, things that we do particularly well, or kind of uniquely versus to what you've already achieved at home. But the way that studying works here is that we it's by so-called credit points, right? A full load. We're semesterized as well, so we're looking at 2 semesters. Each one of those semesters should be gaining 60 credits, and every unit is worth 20. So what that means really is that a full-time load in any one semester would be 3 units. So we could easily fit you onto, say, 3 3rd-year units alongside our own 3rd years if you were to be a 4th-year UCSB student, for instance. But yeah, definitely to confirm you, after our BA degree 3 years, that's the point at which our students are ready to, for instance, enter the master's degree market. And so it's that sort of equivalent point with your 4th year program.